Democrat Jay Jones and Republican Jason Miyares are facing off in an election that's gathered a lot of publicity for one major reason. They're running for state attorney general, and the reason that this is getting a lot of attention is because Jay Jones was caught texting some very, very horrible text messages in January 2022, and Republicans see this as their get out of jail free card. Yep, it excuses all sorts of horrible policy. It excuses every bad thing any right-winger has ever done. They are talking about this. They're using it to excuse the despicable, racist, pro-Nazi texts that were sent by Young Republicans in a group chat. They're saying, no, I don't care about that group chat. I care about Jay Jones' text messages from January 2022. Now, to be clear, of course, these text messages that Mr. Jones sent were terrible. They were. You can't just talk about wanting your opponent's kids to die. You can't say that. That's despicable. And you know what he has done? He has apologized for that. He's correct to do so. Now, Republicans still don't believe him. They say, you're not sorry you did it. You're just sorry that you got caught. And people say that a lot, about a lot of things when people say sorry for doing something. But ultimately, it's unfalsifiable, so you have to take him at his word for it. But let's assume for a second that he's not sorry. Let's assume that. Has Donald Trump ever said sorry for anything? You guys idolize this guy. You say he has a divine right to be the president of the United States. How many times has President Trump apologized for anything he's said or done? I will tell you that number. It starts with a Z and ends with Eero. He's never apologized. He said that his talk about grabbing women by their genitals in 2005, that was locker room talk. Imagine if Jay Jones tried to pull that. That would be civil war. Republicans would be like, okay, yeah, they won't even apologize for wanting to kill our kids. These are horrible people. Like they would be losing it. And so, yeah, Republicans are, of course, because this is kind of just an all-you-can-eat buffet for them, because they love to say that Democrats are evil people who are coming after your kids. They say Democrats want you dead all the time, but they're running ads of this all the time. And it's basically, as I said, their get out of jail free card to excuse the killing that their policies do. So they want you to be mad about this guy texting about killing people, but not mad about their policies, which actually do kill people. So yeah, this is not to excuse what Jay Jones said again, but it is to point out the double standard with respect to President Trump, who gets away with saying everything, as well as the sleazy way in which they're using this. They're using this to say Democrats are the pro-death party, they're the pro-murder party, they're the real divisive, hateful ones, and just be like, yeah, please ignore all of our praising of Adolf Hitler, a guy who murdered 6 million people, more than 6 million. They're using it to excuse all of their racist tropes they spout about black people in that group chat. They're like, I don't care about that group chat. And yeah, they're just deflecting. They're like, oh, what about Charlie Kirk? What about Charlie Kirk? What about Charlie Kirk? As if that excuses these horrible texts that were sent in this group chat. So this has been a bit about that group chat as well. I haven't talked about Jones or the group chat. But here's another question. Is Jones actually going to be able to win? Well, I have read some polls that say he's plummeted. He's plummeted in support. But keep in mind, this is a blue state. This is a blue state, and the race could well change. It's October. The election is in a few weeks. It's November. Also, President Trump is in the White House. He's a Republican. Jay Jones is a Democrat, and the party out of power typically does pretty well in these elections after the general election for president of the United States. See what happened with Glenn Youngkin winning in 2021 after President Biden won in 2020. Also, I think that Democrats are at the point where they're kind of like, yeah, whatever. You can say mean things about Republicans if you want. He went too far. I have seen no Democrats saying that what Jay Jones said was acceptable or good, by the way. None. Abigail Spanberger criticized him for it. She said there's no place for that garbage, and she's still backing him. She's still backing him. So she understands, okay, we got to unify to fight against fascism, to fight against tyranny in our state, to fight against Trump sycophants being elected to office. But at the same time, we have to call out our own side. We have to police our own side when they go too far. And what Jay Jones said, obviously, it wasn't necessarily a matter of policy. It was a matter of just saying something really bad. I mean, there was a hint of policy in there because he said only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. But this was just him showing his own personal flaw. And also, I mean, let's keep in mind, again, it feels a little overdone to constantly mention Trump, but Republicans do a lot of projection. And another way I think they're projecting here is they talk about how one of the things, they did this all the way back in 2016, by the way. They say, you guys don't actually like Trump because of his policies or because he's bad for the country. You just don't like him because of the mean things he says. And it's like, well, whatever. You might not like those mean things, but come on. Don't you want to help our country? Republicans haven't talked about anything about Jay Jones's political views. No, again, it's their get out of jail free card to avoid talking about policy. So they're basically saying, he said mean things. He said mean things, very mean things to be fair. But he said mean things. He said mean things. Don't vote against him in order to protect your kids and protect Republicans from being killed in the streets, as if Jay Jones is actually going to do that. No, he's not going to. There's an element of racism to this as well. President Trump is white. Jay Jones is black. That like, oh yeah, they can't let a black guy get away with this. But President Trump, because he's a white guy born with a silver spoon in his mouth, he gets away with doing that. He gets away with doing that. But yeah, so the party who says, why get so upset over mean things? Why don't you focus on making the country a better place for people? Now all of a sudden they don't care about making the country a better place. They just care about that guy said really mean things in texts 3 years and 9 months ago. That's really bad. I think he wants us dead. He's so bad. So here's what I'll say. I think Jay Jones' chances of winning are at least 50%. You can quote me on that and I will own up to it if I'm wrong after Election Day, but I think he's still got a solid shot. I think he does. I think Democrats have had enough of being policed by Republicans, being tone policed. They're not going to say, oh, shoot, we don't want to go for this. And to be fair, sometimes Republicans draw a line too, like with Roy Moore. A lot of hardcore Christian Republicans probably were like, oh, this is a step too far with Roy Moore and what he's done with a 14-year-old girl. Like that's creepy, man. He purports to be a Christian. So Republicans stayed home when Roy Moore was on the ballot. But here's the thing. I think Democrats are going to be like, okay, this was just stuff that Jay Jones said. Roy Moore is a sexual predator. Jay Jones just said mean things over text, despicable things, but he's apologized. He's maturely apologized. Meanwhile, Roy Moore has not apologized. He's just said, oh, it's lies. Mainstream media lies about me again. And Jay Jones is like, not even denying them. I am so sorry. He's like saying he felt sick to his stomach, saying to Speaker Gilbert and his family that he is so sorry. He is being unequivocal. And I think Democrats will understand that, and I think they'll turn out for him at the polls. So I think he has at least a 50% chance of winning, maybe 60%, although I understand that this has put a dent in some of his support, but I don't think it'll do enough damage to him. I think that Democrats understand what is at stake in elections from here on out, because we've seen how the first 9 months of Trump's second term have gone, and it's disastrous. We need to put a cap on this insanity. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think that Jay Jones will win his election for Attorney General in the state of Virginia? Please like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. This is the more the merrier, and I look forward to speaking to you in my next video.